brief review of purchase orders. That would be from Tuesday. Then I'm going to go ahead and do a simple shipment so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to go through the details on the screen, but not like I did in purchasing. I'm just going to go through what's different from purchasing and go through the different areas of the screen, talk about different receiving styles, and go through more complicated shipments as I go through some of the details on the screen. I'm going to talk about how to do receiving with electronic ordering. So those are the topics we're going to cover today. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing on the list, of course, is finding receiving. You probably know where it's at, but in case you're not aware, receiving is about controlling your inventory. You're controlling, what's on order, what's coming in, from who, when, and how much. So that's all about controlling your inventory. You're going to find it under the Inventory Control menu. So if I click on that and I click on Receiving, I can see that Receiving comes up. Okay? But before we get too far into Receiving, we're going to start with Purchasing, which is what was talked about on Tuesday. So purchasing is the same thing. It's controlling the inventory. So we're going to go to Inventory Control and go to Purchase Orders. I'm going to create a simple purchase order so you can see what the basic steps are for creating it. I'm going to hit F4 New PO, so we're off to a fresh start. The first thing we see in there is a vendor name. I'm going to go ahead and type in a vendor name. As you can see, I'm just typing in part of that name. So step one is telling Anthology who I'm ordering from. I'm going to order from partners. And starting to type their name in, I'm going to hit Enter off the keyboard, and that's going to bring the vendor assistant up. I'm going to hit Enter again, so it brings in the vendor information. The next thing I need to do is tell Anthology what it is that I wish to purchase. And you may remember there's a couple different ways to do that. I can hand type it in. Let me try doing that, an example of that. There we go. So let's say I hand type that in. I'd hit Enter off the keyboard. Then I want to tell Anthology how many it is that I wish to purchase. I'm going to use the tools I learned on Tuesday in the PO class and look at the on-hands, the on-orders, what's on draft PO, what my sales were. I'm going to use the tabs to tell me what the best amount is to order, if anything at all. So I'm going to start making good, comprehensive decisions about what I'm ordering. The list price is printed on the book, and of course whatever discount I get. Now I might have a discount schedule set up. It won't appear yet. Discount schedules are calculating on the total of the order, and Anthology doesn't know the total yet. I might not have a discount schedule, so it may stay zero, and I need to watch for that. Do I allow back orders or not? Remember, if I'm electronic ordering, that's a critical question. So if I allow back orders, I maintain the check mark. If I don't, I deselect it. The check mark is coming from the header, of course, up here. That's the default that's being set for the line. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Enter line. I've got my first item in. Okay, so step one, tell Anthology who you're ordering from. Step two, tell Anthology what it is that you're ordering. Step three, very simple, F10 Save button. Make sure you select it. And you're going to do step two, and a combination of step 2 and 3, over and over again until you fill this up. Okay, so there's going to be other ways you're going to do it. You may click on the ellipse button, find the items that you're interested in purchasing. I'm going to go ahead and select this. Now it's telling me that this is on another purchase order. Remember that this is the draft purchase order. It already exists in PO number 3. Do I want to add it? Yes, I do. How many do I want to order? As always, I'm cross-checking my numbers. I'm looking at my POs, seeing. Now I don't just have two. I don't just have one other draft. I have 2 other drafts. So I've already got 5 on order. So that's an example of how I might decide that I don't really want the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because I've already got enough on order. So again, I'm cross-checking that information. I'm just going to go ahead and use it. Click on the Enter line, goes up into the grid, and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and enter things in. Another way that you might enter information is by hand typing it in. And you may be hand typing in an item, in this case a book, that you've never entered in before. It's brand new. And for buyers purchasing books, that's actually very common. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the ISBN number into the line item entry fields right where it says ISBN SKU. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. I'm going to hit enter off the keyboard. Anthology is going to go to inventory and look for it, not be able to find it. When it can't find it, it's going to see if it can fetch it. And if it can fetch it, it's going to bring the information in for me. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes here. Here's the item that's brand new to me. I'm creating a new record right now. This is the inventory record I'm creating. I want to make sure it's right. So for publisher, I'm going to go ahead and put a publisher in there. And I can see who it should be. I can see that it's Little Brown. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter and select Little Brown. This is my record here. F12 select to bring Little Brown in. It's already, I have it previously set for another time to be general fiction, and I want that. And paperback. It knows paperback because I've already trained it that when it says trade paper for its binding, it's going to bring paperback in as the media. So I'm going to cross-check everything on the screen, see if it's the way I want my inventory record to be. If it is, I hit F12 save. Okay, so I've created a brand new record. Now that I have it in purchasing, I'm going to go ahead and decide how many I want and cross-check the rest of the line. Okay, so now I've got some items in here. As a buyer, however, I may have other ways that items get in here. So there may be other purchase orders I go to find the items I'm looking for, move it to this purchase order. I may also go to sales and go to CBO manager because as a buyer, I'm always concerned about special orders. So I may be looking to see what special orders are out there and multi-select them. Hit F12 send to PO and send it to my purchase order. Now it's telling me, documents in use, which means I've got to save it. Hang on, let me do that. See, that's step number 3, hit F10 save, very important. Now let me go back and grab these other 2 books and get them on there. So I have my needs order, F12, select Partners West, F12 select to send it there, and now those are taken care of. And as always, when I'm worried about customer back orders, when I'm trying to maintain them, I'm going to watch to see what's in draft, because draft means it's on a purchase order, but it's not yet been purchased. The order's not been placed. So is that okay? Make my decisions from there. I might go and move them, etc. Okay, so that would be my customer back orders. Very common thing to be putting last moment on your purchase order. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to go ahead and purchase this. Now, one of the things I want to cross-check, my discounts. I don't have a discount schedule. I probably would know that right from the start, but if I didn't, I'm cross-checking it now. I'm seeing that it's 0. So I need to put in a discount in there. And with Partners West, I get a 40%. So I type it in the header. Remember, the header sets the defaults for the rest of the screen. And when I do that in purchasing, it flows that down to the grid, so every item gets that 40%. Okay. I'm also cross-checking if I allow back orders. Do I have it in the header? Do I have it by the line? Who am I ordering from? Is it a wholesaler? Is it a publisher? Etc. Now, I'm not going to electronic order because I'm not set up for it. I could. Partners West does electronic ordering, but I'm not set up, so I can't. So I'm going to go ahead and post this. And yes, I'm sure I want to post it. Remember, we're on 30. Remember that when I tell Anthology to post it, I'm telling it to do 3 things. I'm telling it to update the on orders for all the items on this purchase order. I'm telling it to change the status from draft to open. And then I'm telling it to change where it's at from purchase orders to receiving. I am placing an order, and I'm telling Anthology that. So yes, I want to post this. Do I want to print? You know, I might want to print. I might want to print and create an electronic file. You know, I might want to print it out to the printer and fax it over. So in some way, I might want to communicate with my vendor after having created my order here. So if we preview it real quick, we can take a look at it. This is what the purchase order would look like printed out. Okay, so I'm not going to print it. PO number 30 goes away. Of course, it always does. It went from purchasing to receiving. So I'm going to go ahead and close down purchase orders, because the next thing that's going to happen, of course, is Partners West is going to try to fill that order. So there's going to be boxes that come to the door from Partners West, and we're going to need to receive it and tell Anthology how many came in. So let's cross-check to see where that item is at. If I go to Inventory Control and I go to Receiving, Sure enough, there's PO number 30. Okay, so if I click on the Details tab, I can see the details of it, and there's all the items I added to PO number 30. So it's waiting for items to be received. In the meanwhile, I know, what's on order. I know what I'm thinking about ordering. I know where everything is at within the process. I have a way to control the inventory. So now I'm waiting for partners to go ahead and fill that order. All right, let's start talking about receiving. I'm going to use a different example for the receiving. We're just going to go through a very simple one. So I'm going to select PO number 28. Now we're imagining that boxes are coming to the door, UPS, FedEx, opening up the boxes, finding the packing slip, cross-checking what's in the packing slip with what's in the box. If there's differences, marking up the packing slip so you know what happened on that shipment. And then bringing the packing slips to Anthology. Now, your store might have a different way of handling this, and every store finds out what's best for them. Well, we're suggesting this method for right now, and then you can do whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay, so we're assuming you have your packing slip, and you're bringing it back to Anthology, and you're going to start your receiving. Okay, so you find out that it's PO number 28. You know that from looking at your packing slip. So you found PO number 28 in your List tab, and you clicked on it, so the black tick mark is in front of it. Click on your Details tab. Now you're seeing the details of 28, and you're going to start your receiving process. So step number 1, you want to tell Anthology how much you received and cross-checking the price and discount to make sure that it's correct. So I can see this is my first item on there. I'm seeing that Anthology says I ordered one. What does the packing slip say? It says that I got one in. So we're good there. List, retail price. I'm looking at the packing slip. That's the same. We're good. I'm looking at the discount on the packing slip. It's the same. So we're good there too. I click on the Enter line. Okay, so it's made the change up here. Notice how now there's a received quantity in there. Okay, so it moved down to Kite Runner. Again, I'm going to look at my packing slip, and I'm going to see how many I received in because I know I ordered one. Sure enough, I received one. I'm checking the rest of the information to make sure it's correct, and I click on the Enter line. So that's step 1. Okay. Step 2 is to check your statuses on your CBOs. We're going to go into this more when we start to go through the details of the screen, but you want to check your statuses. That tells you that something has not come in and why. You'll cross-check to see what that is and take care of it. You also have customer back orders. So you're seeing an icon here that's suggesting that you're filling a customer back order. You need to make sure that that's true. You always need to cross-check that. So when you see an icon here in step 2, you're going to go down to the info panel where there's a CBO tab. Click on it. I can see that Laura is the one who ordered it, and I'm most concerned with what PO number fills it. And in actuality, it is a different PO. It's not on my PO. Anthology doesn't think that my PO is going to fill it. So I need to be very careful about pulling this book. Somebody else may be working on PO number 25, and they may be pulling the book. So be careful when you see it's a different PO number that Anthology is saying is going to fill it. Okay, so that's step 2, cross-checking that information. Step number 3, vendor invoice information. I'm going to go ahead and go to Actions and Vendor Invoice Information. Okay, I'm going to fill out this information based on the packing slip, based on what I know. So there's a base level that's on most packing slips. One of them is the amount you had to write the check out for, or someone had to write the check out for. It's the cost on there. So you're looking for a cost column, checking to see what that amount is, and putting it in right here. So whatever it is, you put it in. The other thing you have on your packing slip is a date. They have a ship date, and more than likely your ship date is going to be your invoice date. Usually the vendor says, when it leaves my doors, the clock starts ticking, that's when we bill you for, so that ends up being the invoice date. Might be, might not, maybe a day or two off, but it's going to be close enough that you want to use that date in your invoice date field. So I'm going to go ahead and select my calendar. Let's say the ship date was the 3rd, August 3rd. I'm going to click OK here. Fills in the date for me. So those are 2 easy pieces of information to put in there from your packing slip that are very important for Anthology and the information within it. If you happen to know the invoice number, that would be excellent. Go ahead and put it in if it's something you happen to know. A lot of packing slips don't have that, but some of them do. And if they do, go ahead and put it in. Okay. Now, you're going to cross-check to see, is my invoice subtotal, that's coming from the vendor, match my receipt subtotal? That's from Anthology. Do they match? If they match, you're good. Okay, you know you're receiving right, and you can move forward, no problems. If they're not the same, you need to stop and figure out why. So the first question is how different are they? Just know that a few pennies is probably rounding, not a big deal. And that's pretty true even in the larger numbers. Now when you start talking about $1,000, you may be talking about dollars off. So it's a small portion of the total invoice that's a rounding issue. So if it's a little bit off, that's probably what it is. If it's more than that, you've got something that's not right. You need to go back and check it. It might be that your quantities are wrong, that there's been a price change in the book, you haven't picked it up, that your discounts are wrong. Okay, so you need to go back, find what the problem is, and fix it. And this is going to be your first clue that something's going on. In this case, I'd say it's rounding. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save button to save this. It's giving me that little message that says, hey, these don't match. Is that okay? Yep, that's fine. We knew that. We're good. Okay, so that's step 3. Put in your vendor invoice information. Step 4, easy. All you have to do is hit F10 Save. And remember, you can hit F10 Save at any time, and we encourage you to do that, to hit F10 Save. But if you haven't hit it by now, you need to. So there's information in there. Get it saved. The last step is to hit F12 Post. Now remember that F10 Save tells Anthology to save what's on the screen, but don't take action on it. So at this point, Anthology doesn't know what we received. It's listed here, but it has not taken action on it. It doesn't really know. Nothing's gone on. When I hit F12 Post, I'm telling Anthology, take action on this information. So when Anthology takes action, what is it going to do? Well, it's going to change all the on-hands by the amount that was received. It's going to go through this line by line and ask, is this complete? Is this complete? If the line's complete, it's going to gray the line out at the line item entry field. If the line is not complete, it's going to leave it white and available. So it's going to know line by line which line's complete and which line is not. Now it's going to create a brand new record. It's going to be a system record. And on that record, it's going to show exactly what you received. It's going to put this information in. Okay. It's going to give it a status of shipment. And the shipment's going to be for this PO number, and it's going to number those shipments so that you know which one this is towards this PO. So brand new record, status of shipment, has the same PO number, but it has a number beside it that tells you what shipment it is. Okay. If all the lines on here are complete, Anthology is going to take another step. It's going to change the status from open to complete. And when it goes to complete, when this open goes to complete, the purchase order will be done. Nothing more you can do on it when it's done, when it's complete. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Now before you do step number 5, one of the things that I tell people is please stop at this point and make sure that everything is right. If vendor invoice information balances, you're pretty good. You're in pretty good state. But oftentimes there's more items on the packing slip than there is, that's on this receiving memo. And so the question is, are you done? Does everything make sense? Make sure that everything is adding up and you know that this is a good receiving. If you are, go ahead and post it. F12 Post. Are you sure? Yes. So now it's going to take action like I mentioned. Okay. And you can see PO number 28 went away. It went away because it's now complete. Everything came in. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Notice how it says Open POs only down here on the bottom right-hand side. This is a filter. I'm going to deselect the filter and click on Search and scroll up. We can see the shipment record has already shown up. for PO number 28, you can see shipment record number 1. If I sort this by PO number, they are now side by side. Here's the complete, here's the shipment record. So remember what I said, if everything on the open PO or open receiving memo, each line is complete on the posting, then the open is changed to complete. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here's your completed PO. I'm going to scroll up, and I can see that total received for each item on there, everything has been received. When I click on the line, it's grayed out. So each line has been complete. Okay? If I look at the shipment record, I can see exactly what came in when. So I'm looking at the shipment record. You can see it says shipment over here. I can see the date that I received it. I can see the quantities that I received. If I'd had statuses, that would be there. Okay, so all the information is there. In fact, your vendor invoice information is attached to the shipment record. So there it is. There's the information. Okay, so that's a simple receiving. Is there any questions about that? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to take the filter, put it back on again. You can see this is a hard screen to work with. Remember that open, shipments, and completes never go away. So this screen is going to continue to get more, to get busier, to have more details on it that you need to sort through. And as a receiver, that's pretty difficult. That makes your job a lot more difficult. So if we put the filter back on, all of a sudden all we're dealing with is the opens, and that, of course, is what you're working with. So let's go ahead and look at this again. Let's go back and say that we're getting receiving to the door. We cross-check it. Of course, packing slip to the physical items that came in. We're bringing the packing slip to Anthology. We're checking to see which PO number it is. Packing slip says 25. So I find PO number 25. I click on the Details tab, and now I'm seeing the details of that. Now let's talk about what's different on this screen from purchasing to receiving. Okay, we have some added columns over here. These columns are not on the PO, the draft PO screen. They're only on the receiving screen. You have a checkbox over here. It says Show Completed Items. Again, only in receiving, not in purchasing. Let's talk about what the columns mean. So if we start with the order column, that actually comes from your draft PO. So it's coming from your draft PO into your receiving, and it shows you what you ordered. Okay. The next column over is your received column. Your received column is right here, right now. What are you receiving? What's on that packing slip? What's in that box? That's what you're receiving. When you start out, it should be 0, with only one exception. So when you first go to do your receiving, you look here, these should be 0, because you're starting right now. You're putting in right now what's in front of you, and nothing, anything that had come before should have been processed already. So these should be 0, with one exception. Okay, open. Open is what's left to be received once you've done your first shipment. Right? It's going to be important to you after your first shipment has gone in. So if you had an order quantity of 2, we don't, but let's say you do, an order quantity of 2 and you had already received 1, then what's left would be 1, and that's what you'll see. So open is what's left to be received. Total received is the total amount that you received of this specific title, in this case Last Man Standing, on this specific PO number. So you have multiple shipments to one PO number. So the sum total of all the shipments, this is how much you've received for that PO. Status. If you've received some, but not all, of the items you ordered, Anthology wants to know why. What happened to the ones that did not come in? That you're required to put it in. So statuses. Remember, you make any changes, you edit in the line item entry fields. That's down here. So I'm going to click on statuses and look to see what we have listed there. Okay, now these are industry standards. You can't change them. You need to find the one that's closest to the one that you have going on, that they're not exact. So to help you sort these out, I want you to notice that we have backordered and we have canceled. And if you look at the other statuses, they have a dash after them, and then they either have back ordered or canceled. That's true of all of them all the way through. So here's what I want you to know until you learn the statuses, because there's slight variations as to what they mean and what happens to them. But overall, they mean one of two things. They either mean that it's been back ordered, and to Anthology that means it's coming in. It's not here now, but it is coming in, and it will leave that purchase order open waiting for it, or it's canceled, which means it's not coming in. So it's going to cancel that line and potentially complete the PO if everything is in. So canceled means it's not coming in. So when you see secondary warehouse / back order, or not yet published back order, or unknown back order, you know any one of these statuses is going to leave that PO open. But if you choose out of stock indefinitely, cancel, it's going to cancel the line. It's going to cancel whatever's left. Out of stock, cancel. Any one of these cancels will do exactly that. Okay, so you choose a status if you received some but not all. We require it. But if you've received nothing, we don't require it, but we're going to strongly recommend you put in a status so you know what's happened. Anthology will let you go forward and process, but we're still going to say if you have not gotten anything in on this shipment, you need to say why. What's happened to those ones that did not come in? So that's statuses. Okay, any questions so far? Let's go ahead and go through receiving. So again, we've gone through our process. We have the packing slip with us. We're comparing the packing slip to the receiving memo. So we're on PO number 25. Now, it's going to help us go through this much more effectively if we change the receiving memo to match the packing slip. So the question is, what order is the packing slip in? Most of the time, title, description, order. So if I click on it, and it is now in title, description, order. It might be ISBN SKU. I'll click on that. Or any of these other columns, if it's organized that way, you can go ahead and select it. Now, it might be an entry order. The smaller wholesalers will do that. They'll put it in entry order. If that ends up being the case, you can go to Actions and find it there. Sort by entry order, and it will rearrange it accordingly. Okay, so whatever it is, whatever the order happens to be, select that and organize it that way. And then scroll up to the top, make sure you're on the very first one, select that. I always cross-check it and make sure I'm at the top by clicking that up arrow. That's very important, so I know I'm at the top. So poetry, feminism poetry is my first one. The other thing I want to do to prepare for going through this is I want to get rid of the info panel. I don't want to display it. It's in my way right now, and I want to open up the grid a little bit. I don't need it right at this moment. So what I'm going to do is hit Shift F2 info panel. That's what this is. This is the info panel. And the Shift F2 is a toggle switch that toggles that info panel displaying and not displaying. So if I click on it, now it's not displayed. I can see a lot more of the grid. If I click on it again, it's back again. So you don't ever have to worry. It just have to click the button to get whatever it is that you want back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to leave the info panel not displayed so I can see more of the grid. Okay, I'm going to cross-check my received column, make sure that it's zeros there. Because when I start, it should be zeros. With, if there are numbers there, it's a problem with one exception. And we're going to talk about the exception towards the end here. But if there are numbers in here and it's not the exception, then that means there's something you need to take care of. You can't start your shipment yet because someone didn't finish theirs. So there's another shipment that's in process, and it needs to be resolved before you can come in and add yours to what's happening here. So that should be resolved. Now you should be looking at zeros, and you can move forward with yours. Okay, so step one, tell Anthology what it is that you received. So we're on the first line. We can see the first line here, feminism poetry. Of course, we go to the line item entry fields to make the change, to edit it. How many did I receive? I did receive one. I check my list, my retail, and my discount with what's on my packing slip. This is exactly why we do it. Of course, that shouldn't be a zero. There should be an amount in there. All right, so This is one of the vendors that did not have a discount schedule, so we need to put that in. I'm not going to do it line by line. I could, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and click on my enter line, let it drop down to the next one. Notice how my received quantity now says 1 in here. And I'm going to fix my discounts. So looking at my packing slip, what's my discount that's showing on the packing slip? Let's say that it is 40%, 40 dot. Now, it works differently in receiving than it does in purchase orders. So in purchasing, when I hit enter, it immediately went through the entire grid, and every line in there got a 40%, every item. Did not happen here. We don't want to overwrite this in case, you might not be paying attention. There might be information in there already, and we don't want you to have to go back through and fix everything at this point. You're further down the line. So what we want to do is we want to flow the back order status, flow the discount down. So this discount here, we're going to flow down through every item that's in the grid. And we're going to do that by going to the Actions menu. So if we go to the Actions menu, you can see that it has flow discount, header discount down. I'm going to select that, and now all of them have a 40%. So done. So we're good. Okay, Kite Runner was the next one on there. How many did I receive? Let's say that I didn't receive any. That one is back ordered. Now I have a choice. Anthology is not going to force me to put a back order in here, but I want to. I want to make sure that that's noted in the system that this is a back order, and I know what's going on with it versus a cancel. And so I'm going to click on the enter line. Drops down to the next one. I'm checking my packing slip. How many did I receive? I did receive one. I'm checking my list in retail. There's been a price change. Okay, so now it is $10.99. So I'm changing the first field. I'm going to skip changing the second field. I'll show you why in a moment. And I can see that the discount is 40%. So if I click on the enter line, it gives me a message. And the message is saying, update retail price for this item with the new list price. What does that mean? Well, what it's saying is, do you want these two fields to be the same? Do you want me to take the list price and make it the same, make the retail price be the same? When you're talking about a book where you keep the list and retail the same, you're going to say yes. But you could have non-book items for which you want these to be different. And so you're going, in that case, you would say no. So you want to be careful about how you answer these questions depending on your inventory and how it's being handled. So we're going to say yes here. It is a book item. We are purchasing by discount. We want the list and retail to be the same. So we'll say yes. It'll make the change and drop down to the next line. Okay. Simpsons Comics Unchained, yes, we received one. List and retail is correct. But the discount, we got a little better discount on that one. So this particular one is a 41%. Okay, it's the enter line, and now we're down at the bottom. We're on the last one. That was step one. We entered in our received quantities. We cross-checked our list and retail. We also checked our discount. Okay, step two, check your statuses in your CBOs. So my statuses. I notice that there's one that says back order. So I have one that I might be concerned about. Now what you do with this information is going to depend on your job description. You may also be the buyer, and so you may want to send that to a different purchase order, which you can. You can send that to a draft PO. You can call and cancel it from from the vendor if that happens to be the case. Whatever you need to do here as the person in charge. You might not be the person in charge, but you still are the only one who knows that that's been back ordered. So by job description, what do you need to do with that information? There may be people you still need to let know what's happened with this. So take care of that. The other thing is your CBOs. If you have customer back orders that have come in and they are on your receiving, then you need to pull those books and wrap them. Now, we're not going to talk about that in this webinar because we have an SPO webinar. We go into detail on that. But you need to cross-check and make sure that these are actually yours that you're going to need to take care of. And doing that is pretty simple. But we're going to need the info panel back to do it. So I'm going to hit Shift F2 to bring the info panel back. I have Simpsons Comics Unchained. I'm going to click on the CBO tab. And I'm asking myself, which PO fills this? Which PO does Anthology think fill this particular special order? Oh, mine. Okay, I need to take care of this. Pull it, wrap it, call the customer, whatever I've been told my responsibilities are as a receiver. Next one down, right now I'm just checking information. Next one down, PO number 25. So you can see it's Kite Runner, you can see that it's Laura, you can see it's PO number 25 that fills it, and that's me. So I have 2 on here I need to take care of. I might do that now, I might do that later. So whatever I need to do there. Step number 3, put in your vendor invoice information in. So I'm going to go to Actions, Vendor Invoice Information. Okay, put in what I know. Again, the easiest thing is going to be looking at my packing slip and looking for my costs. It's going to show me how much I had to charge to my credit card or write the check out for, and that's the amount that goes in here. It's a rare occasion that it doesn't show anything at all. If there's a variation you're likely to run into with that, it's that it has a retail amount on as well. It has 2 columns. So retail is the value of the inventory sold. It's not what you wrote the check for. You don't have to worry about that. That's not what you're working with here. Here, you're worried about your cost. That's what goes in here. Okay. Now, it's unlikely to have shipping on a packing slip. If you happen to have the invoice is, probably does have shipping if you've been charged any. So if you have the packing slip, you might not know what the shipping is, and that's okay. Put in what your cost is and compare them. If you know what your shipping is, then you'll deal with that too. Now I'm going to make my shipping easy so that I don't have to do calculations in my head. So I'm going to say that this full amount is $34.41. Okay. And so now I'm going to go down to shipping, and it was $10. Okay, so when I put in that information, you see I'm putting in the total amount that's on the invoice, which is $34, and then I put in the shipping, which is $10, and Anthology does the calculations for me. Now I'm cross-checking. Do the 2 match? They certainly do. So I know my receiving is good. I'm going to go ahead and put an invoice date in because chances are I have a ship date on that packing slip, and if I have the invoice, then I know what the invoice date is. Okay, if I know the invoice number, good thing to put in. I'll put that in. If I don't, it's okay. I don't have to put it in. I can go ahead and click on Save. I'm done step 3. Step 4, the easy step. Hit F10 Save. You can see it's black and available, needs to be selected. Make sure you do that. Again, do it at any time, but you definitely need it now. Last step is to post. You want to make sure that everything is looking right. You're looking at your packing slip. Has everything been received? Is there some on there that are backordered from a different PO that need to be taken care of? Any variations, any questions, any problems? You want to take care of that first. When you're ready, go ahead and post. Okay? It's still urgent that you post. I wouldn't leave it sit for days because Anthology doesn't yet know that this has come in. Remember, it's saving what's on the screen, but it's not taking action on it. Now, when I post, then it will know because that's when it's going to update the on-hand. Right? It's going to cross-check each individual line and see if it's complete or it's not, and so forth. It's going to create that new record, etc. Let's go ahead and do that. F12 Post. You sure you want to? Yes. Oh, price change. Let's talk about price changes. There's 2 issues surrounding price changes. One is what's printed on the book that you are getting in, that you've just received. What price is printed on that book? Because, yes, it is possible that you're being charged more than is actually displayed on the book. And if the value on the book that's being shown is different than what you need to charge, we're going to suggest you print out barcodes for those. So barcode them so that they're at the correct price. You also want to think about what you have on the floor because that also is going to be at the old price. Now, yes, you paid less for them, but markets are tight. It's okay to go back through, barcode them at the higher price, and that way you can have Anthology be at the correct price at the cash register and have there be no issue. Now, if you don't print out barcodes, and if you don't change Anthology, eventually you're going to be selling inventory that's at a higher price than what's marked in the system. There's no way to know when that inventory has turned over and now you need to be charging the higher price, and it adds to confusion. So we're going to say change your prices here and barcode those items that may have a different price on them so everything matches and is the same and the customer knows exactly what to expect. So this first question, there's going to be two of them. This first one is showing you list price. And we're going to go ahead and say yes to all. The second one says retail price. Now this one truly is going to change what comes up at the cash register. And again, we're going to say yes to all. Now we've been handling these as books. You need to think these things through. What are you doing? Is it correct for you for how you've got your inventory set up? Chances are you're going to say yes to all. Okay, it's asking me if I want to print. I don't need to, so I'm going to say no. And now it's processing it. So let's look to see what it did. Now this one did not go away. We're still on PO number 25. So why didn't it go away? Well, because it's not complete. It's still open. And still open because there's items on here we did not get. So remember, Anthology went through this line by line and cross-checked it. So last man standing, grayed out, lines complete. Feminism and poetry, grayed out, lines complete, and etc. If you go down, you find, oh, Kite Runner, that one's white. That one is not complete. That item should still be coming in. And sure enough, there's our back order status, just as you would expect. So that's the item that's on here that's still open. Now, if I wanted to see what was still open at a glance without having to look down it, all I'd have to do is deselect the Show Complete Items checkbox. When I deselect this, all the completed items go away, and it leaves me with what's just left open. And so I can see, oh, it's just this one item. That's it. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a little bit. Okay, so I've gone through all my steps, and I've posted. So let's look at some of the other things that happened when I posted. Notice how the total received got updated. So your received is 0, your total received has been updated with what you just got in, and your open column has also been updated. So all these show 0 except for this one. So it's saying there's still one left to come in, and that's true. It is. There's still one left to come in. Okay, if I go to the List tab, and I click on my filter, I take it off, I click on Search, I can see the shipment record that's below it. Shipment record number 25. Okay, and we've looked at that before, so we're not going to go through it again, but let's say, I'll put the filter back on, let's say that we get another shipment in a couple days later, and you get another one in, and it's for Partners West, and it's that particular one, number 25. Remember that you're going to go through all the same processes that you have been. So you're going to go through this line by line, right? You're going to organize this so that you can go through it line by line and enter the information in. So you put in title, description, order, and you get rid of the info panel, all the things you need to do to set up. Now, we're in shipment number 2, right? We've already had one. We can see that from the total received column. It kind of makes it a little tough to go through. If I deselect my Show Completed Items checkbox, now I'm just seeing what's open, and I can start from the top and work my way down. If I'd had multiple items on here, that would allow me to just see what's open and go through my receiving process, 1, 2, 3, very easily. So Kite Runner is what's left. I click on how many I've received. I received 1. List, retail, discount, all of it's good. I click on my enter line. Right? That's step 1. Step 2, I check my statuses and my CBOs. I've got one on here. So I'm going to go back to my CBO tab. I can see it's PO number 25. I need to take care of it. And so I worry about that and take care of it. Step number 3, I'm going to go to Actions, Vendor Invoice Information, put in what I know. Right? What happens if I don't put in anything? I decide I'm not going to put anything in there. I feel like I don't have enough information. The packing slip doesn't show me enough, so I don't put anything in. I click on Cancel. So I don't do step number 3. Step number 4, I'm going to hit F10 Save. Okay, so step number 5, when I go to do that in Post, one of the criteria is to know that I've actually done, that my receiving is good. And how do I know that? Because I don't know if it bounces or not. So I might have done something, missed something when I went through that, and I won't know right now. So that's one of the issues at hand. But here's another issue at hand. If I click on F12 Post, are you sure? This message will appear. It's saying vendor invoice information must be entered. And when you click OK, it doesn't post it. You're still back to where you were. Now this is an option. The owner manager has the option whether or not to have that on. It could just warn, or it might not say anything at all. But the default is to not allow. You are not allowed to post a receiving without vendor invoice information. And I want to say to you, be very careful about shutting that off. That's important information on many levels. Returns is another place that you can benefit from vendor invoice information. If you have a QuickBooks link, you're going to want to have that information in there. So but as an owner-manager, you can go back into Setup and change it to warn or to allow, and the message won't come up, and they can go ahead and post it. In this case, it is on to require, so I have to put it in. I'm going to go ahead and go back to Actions, Vendor Invoice Information, put in what I know. If I have nothing else but the cost that is on that packing slip, that is the base level information I need to go ahead and save this and then post. So if I have just that one piece of information, it's enough to go ahead and post this receiving. But I'm going to suggest to you that it's going to be a pretty rare packing slip that does not have a date on it. Or even, you know when you received it in, you could use today's date, if nothing else. So I'm going to say that you're going to help other employees, other staff, if you put some kind of date in here. Hit Save, and now you can go ahead, hit F10, Save again, go ahead and post it. Ready? Yes. No to print. 25 goes away. Now we're looking at 26. Okay, we're going to go through one more round. We're going to talk about receiving electronic ordering. Before we do you have any questions for me? Okay, I'm watching the chat and I'm not seeing anything, so I'm assuming that you're doing okay. Let's go ahead and talk about receiving against electronic ordering. It's just a slight variation. Okay, thank you, Diana. It's just a slight variation on the receiving that we've been doing. Okay, so shipment comes through the door, check the packing slip, bring it up to Anthology. What PO number is it? It's PO number 4. So I click on that. I click on the details. Now I'm looking at PO number 4. Now, as I had mentioned before, you want to look at your received column, and if you see amounts in there, it needs to be that one exception, or it's a problem. In this case, it is the exception. It's okay that there's received quantities in here. Why? It's electronic ordered. It's the first shipment on an electronic order. See, when you electronic order, the vendor sends us how much they're going to send you, and we put that in for you. They tell us what the statuses are going to be, and we put that in for you. So it's all there. So when you go to receive an electronic order, it's actually easier than it is when that's not filled in, because all you're going to do is cross-check the information. So let's prepare for this as we normally would, right? Title description order. So we do that. And you want to make sure it's at the very top. So now it is. I'm going to get rid of the info panel so I can see more of the grid, more of the items that I'm receiving. And I'm going to go through this one at a time, but I'm just going to, look through it. I don't have to change anything unless there's a variation. So I'm looking at the first one. I can see that it's back ordered, right? And I'm just clicking so you can see where I'm looking. You don't have to click on the screen at all. So I'm looking to see everything is okay here. Now I do need to click. I need to click on the next one. So bittersweet, I received 6. That's the same as packing slip. BLT, that's good. It's good. It's good. I'm just looking through list retail discount. Everything is right as it should be. Going through line by line, checking it against the packing slip. It goes pretty quick, and I see there's a problem. Now this is unusual. It's unusual that you're going to have an inventory record that has a list and retail at a 0. But the point is that there's some variation that's not right, and you want to go ahead. You need to find that, and you need to correct it. So let's just say it's $26.99. I'm going to leave the retail because Anthology is going to fill that in for me here. Discount's correct. I click on the enter line. Yes, I want them to be the same. It makes them the same. Drops down to the next line. Now, if on my packing slip it's showing that something is different, there's been a change, and I can see that because they hand wrote it in. They said I received 1, but in fact, and the packing slip said I received 1, but in fact I never got it. So I'm going to go ahead and say 0 here because I didn't receive anything. So I'm making the change to what happened in real life, and then I'm continuing on. Now, I might want to put in a status. coming back to that, put in some kind of status of what's happening. So if I was expecting it and they were supposed to send it to me, I'm probably going to have it back ordered. I could put canceled. Canceled has a very real impact. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but for right now I'm going to put a status of back ordered. Okay, so I'm going down and checking the rest of my lines, and everything is looking good line by line. I was hoping for one other. Let's go back to this one. Let's go back to Emerald's Kitchen. Let's say that I did not receive 6. I received 4. Okay? I want you to notice that as soon as the received amount does not match the open amount, I get a red line. That's Anthology's way of saying you received some, but you didn't receive all, and we need to know why. You can't enter this line without a status. If you click on it, it'll squawk at you, and it'll say, statuses must be specified. We're not kidding. You need to specify it. We're not going to let you go on until you do. Oh, okay. That's fine. I'll do that. So I go to my statuses. Now, what happened to it? Well, those 2, they're not coming in. They got canceled. So before I do that, I want you to notice that the open says 6 here. Okay? When I select cancel, I'm saying that those 2 are not coming in. So whatever the balance is between the received and open, that's what's not coming in. And when I select cancel, Anthology adjusts that for me. Now the open and the received are the same. Okay, so when you select cancel, it's going to balance that line out. I click on the enter line button, it drops down to the next line. Okay, so again, I go through the whole thing, cross-check it. So I did step number 1. Step number 2, checking your statuses and your CBOs. If I click on the status, it brings all the statuses together. See how helpful that is? In a large receiving, you've got lots of items to look at. It brings them all in one place where you can take a look at it. Now again, what's your job description? Who needs to know this? Does anybody need to know this? Do you need to take action on it? There's a reason you ordered these. They're not coming in for whatever reason. They might not ever come in. Who needs to know that, and what do you need to do? CBOs, do you have any customer back orders? We don't. It's, if I scroll up and scroll down, I can see there are no CBOs, so that one is done. So that's step 2. Step 3, put in your vendor invoice information. So if I go to Actions and I go to Vendor Invoice Information, I put in what I know. I put in the ship date. I'm looking at my packing slip. I'm looking for my cost. Again, I might not have a shipping amount. I cross-check to make sure these are the same, and they are. I click on Save. Okay. Step 4 is to hit F10 Save. Now I want to stop here before I post because I want to make one other note. And this is specific to electronic ordering. This is something that you can get into when you're doing electronic ordering. Secondary warehouses. I've represented them one way here because that's all I can do within the interface. In real life, Anthology handles this a little bit differently. But the issue that you might run into with a secondary warehouse is that it's coming in at a different time, and you want to receive that right then. You want to receive the secondary warehouse right at the moment that it comes, and it's coming in differently than the primary warehouse. That's not a true back order. We've marked it as a back order, but in fact, it's not a back order, right? Because it's being shipped at the exact same time as the others. It's just coming from a different location, and it's travel time that makes it different. That's it. It's coming in. It's just when. So that's why Anthology views this as something that's coming in, that's being received. So you might not like the way the Anthology handles it. There's been a number of people who, with how they are receiving, they get frustrated with that. There's a lot of secondary warehouses, especially from Ingram, and they don't want to have to either ignore that or, do it all as one and then wait for it to come in and trust it or whatever. So if you find that secondary warehouses are an issue, this stops being a blessing and starts being a curse. Easy to fix. All you have to do, and you do this at the beginning, right? You will have decided this right away when you're looking at it. You can go to Actions and unreceive all. When you select unreceive all, it's going to take everything that's in the received column, bring it back to 0 again. You'll have the option as to whether you want to keep the statuses. And we're going to suggest that you still keep the statuses so you can clearly see what, when there's been activity there, but you don't have to. You can get rid of the statuses too. So if you do that, you're going to go ahead and do this just like you would any other receiving. Right? Title, description, order, go to the very top, select the first one, work your way down, put in the received quantities all the way through. So it would be like any other receiving at that point if there's been a problem. And then you can do your secondary warehouses. Okay, last step here. We know everything is correct. We feel pretty darn comfortable that it's good. We're going to go ahead and post it. F12 Post. Are you sure you want to? Yes. Price changes. How are you going to handle those? I'm going to say yes to all here. Maybe print out some barcodes. And I might do that by going to my shipment record and printing out the barcodes from there. Okay, so that is receiving. We've gone through that a number of times now. And I'm sorry, now I'm seeing a question, Diana. You're saying the invoice date is the day you receive everything or the day you ordered it. The invoice date is the day, usually it's the day that it left their warehouse. It's the ship date, more often than not. So they are choosing the invoice date, and they usually choose the date that they sent the items out. It is not your ordered date. It's not the same as your ordered date. But if you have nothing else to go by, you could use your receive date. It at least will get you close for the employee that might be going back through, either to do returns, return to vendor, or they are trying to get the invoice information and they're trying to find that particular shipment record. The dates will help. Okay, any other questions? Okay, last thing I want to make sure you're aware of, help system. If I click on help and I click on help again, so now I'm in the help system, always trying to decide between setup and using. Of course, we're not setting up right now. We are using, so if I select that, I'm seeing that particular help part of the help system. When I'm here, I stop and ask myself, where am I in anthology? Okay, I was in receiving. Where is receiving? It's under inventory control. I went to inventory control, and then I went to receiving. I do the same thing in this part of the help system, right? So I'm going to go to inventory control and go to receiving. And when I do that, I'm going to see there's a bit of information there. Things we talked about in this particular webinar, some things we might not have. So go ahead and take a look at it for a little more information. Okay? Excellent. Well, I see you're saying that there's no other questions. Thank you so much for coming.